I'm Caitlin Huey-Burns in Washington. Thanks for joining us. Former President Trump has arrived in New York City, where he'll be expected to surrender to prosecutors on Tuesday. He traveled from his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida for the arraignment at the Manhattan Criminal Courthouse. So joining us now, we have CBS News Chief Election and Campaign Correspondent Robert Costa, who's outside the Manhattan DA's office in New York City, and CBS News Political Director Fin Gomez, who's been following the president's departure earlier today in Palm Beach, Florida. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We have the former president's route pretty much covered today. Bob, I want to start with you in New York. You have been camped out there for days. You've been reporting out there for days. Set the scene for what we are expecting tomorrow when we see for the first time in American history a former president being indicted. We understand that we're actually going to learn what these charges are that he's facing.
Good to be with you, Caitlin. So far, we know that the former president will arrive here sometime late morning, early afternoon on Tuesday to be processed at this building behind me, Manhattan Criminal Courthouse. He will not be in handcuffs, but he will be likely taking a photograph, a mug shot, and then he will be arraigned in open court. During that court proceeding, the indictment against Trump will be unsealed, so we will finally be able to see the specifics of what actually Trump is being accused of by the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Our reporting at CBS News shows that much of the street here will be shut down to let the former president's black SUVs come into this area on Tuesday. But for now, it's actually a relatively quiet scene here on Monday evening. Traffic is still flowing. Pedestrians are here, some protesters as well.
And Bob, I understand that Trump retained a new lawyer today. What do we know about him?
Trump's expanding his legal team, Caitlin, as he looks toward a possible trial. Trump's lawyers tell us they are going to move to dismiss this case, but should it not be dismissed and move toward a trial, he has brought on a veteran New York prosecutor, Todd Blanche, who has a lot of experience as a prosecutor in high-profile litigation, to be part of his legal team. Trump has almost several legal teams that are operating at this moment as he deals with Georgia, that election investigation, two special counsel investigations in Washington on the federal level, and, of course, everything playing out here in Lower Manhattan.
Yeah, it's a really good reminder, Bob, that this is just one of several investigations going on at the same time. Fin, I want to talk to you about kind of the political implications of all of this, because I think that's been the biggest question, aside from what these charges are and what will happen with this indictment, is what this means for Trump politically, because he is running for president again. I want to play a little bit of what some of his rivals and potential rivals have been saying in response to this indictment.
I think the unprecedented indictment of a former president of the United States for a campaign finance issue is an outrage. And I think it's clear to the overwhelming majority of the American people that this is nothing short of a political prosecution.
He wants to downgrade felonies to misdemeanors, really, really dangerous stuff. And then what does he do? He turns around, does a flimsy indictment against a former president of the United States.
I want to be crystal clear that we should not want to live in a country where the party in power is able to use police force to arrest its political opposition.
So, Fin, we are seeing Republicans, come to Trump's defense, echo his sentiments about Bragg and the entire prosecution. But this seems like this moment in time. I mean, there is still a long way to go. What is kind of the longer-term political impact potentially for this president, for this former president, and how is his team kind of thinking about that?
I think you're absolutely right, Caitlin. Right now, the political impact for Donald Trump and his 2024 candidacy has that it's been a boost, if you will. You've seen his rivals and potential rivals circle their wagons around the former president in this Manhattan DA case. However, I have spoken to Republican operatives and Republican strategists from other camps, those of whom who are not connected to the Trump world, and they say they don't believe it's sustainable, and that this right now in April of 2023 could change as we proceed forward into this cycle. There are looming investigations. There's a special counsel investigation. on two fronts. There's, of course, Fulton County in Georgia, that investigation into election interference as well. And frankly, there's a sense that the increase, the boost, the political boost, if you will, among that diehard electorate, that the base voters within the Republican Party, that may wane as this goes on. That may not be sustainable politically as this goes on. And and down the line, those voters may appreciate the political policies of the former president, but they may look elsewhere for other potential candidates to lead them forward. Ron DeSantis, who is, of course, the governor of this state and who is a potential contender, is expected by many to jump into the fray following his legislative session after that ends early next month. And he could be a potential contender. As others have reported, as Bob himself has reported, there have been other potential contenders under consideration who could pick up that momentum as we go down the line. Caitlin?
Yeah, Finn, that's a really good point. Bob, I'm curious what you've been hearing, too, talking to your sources about kind of, how the other candidates or, the donor base or the Republican Party, operatives are kind of thinking about this, looking at this indictment, but also the other investigations going on as well that they could likely be concerned about.
This is a wait-and-see moment for many Republican donors, especially those who have an aversion to former President Trump. They're wondering, could the dynamics change? But right now, they're witnessing Trump consolidating support in the Republican primary race. And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is not taking Trump on in any way. In fact, offering relative support. Other rivals being pretty muted and taking on Trump when he has a moment of potential legal vulnerability at the least, not sensing necessarily political vulnerability from Trump. Some donors are looking at whether someone like Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin could be courted to run. But my sources tell me that Youngkin's not making any moves to get into the 2024 race. You do have some sensing a bit of opportunity, like former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, who jumped into the race on Sunday. But beyond that, Trump has so much sway with a lot of his own longtime supporters that it's hard at a moment of grievance on the legal and political front for any of his competitors to get much political oxygen.
Yeah, that's what I find so fascinating about the dynamic here is that you have, as you say, a Trump at his, at a very vulnerable point, and yet the gloves really haven't come off among the other candidates. I mean, you mentioned Hutchinson is pretty much the only one that's been offering some criticisms of Trump. I want to play a little bit about what he said in announcing his run, and Finn, get your thoughts on the other side.
I've traveled the country for 6 months. I hear people talk about the leadership of our country, and I'm convinced that people want leaders that appeal to the best of America and not simply appeal to our worst instincts.
But you couldn't see yourself supporting Trump again.
I don't believe he should be the next leader of our country.
So, at the same time, Finn, very few people, I think, know who Hutchinson is, and Donald Trump is still commanding a sizable portion of the base. Is there room for someone like him, or is he trying to just, make this point?
I spoke to Asa Hutchinson, the former governor of Arkansas, the former head of the DEA, a couple weeks ago in Washington, D.C., where he shared that same sentiment, where he said that if Donald Trump is indicted, that he should step aside. And now that he's announced, he's reiterating that point and making it a central part of his emerging candidacy. I think there is space for that sort of sentiment because you haven't really heard that before to that level. However, overall, Caitlin, if you look at those numbers that impact that he's had so far, the former governor of Arkansas hasn't registered among primary voters, among likely Republican voters. You haven't seen that. His name does not have that national recognition that others and others may have, and potential rivals to Donald Trump may have. So I think he has quite the uphill climb starting from this starting point. But it is still early. We will see where he goes. But as we mentioned, right now, the early front runner continues to be the former president, even with the historic arraignment occurring tomorrow in New York.
And I know you two are covering it all for us, and we'll see if any of those questions get answered tomorrow and in the months to come. Bob Costa and Fin Gomez, thank you so much for your time and reporting.